valuation, CAUV is like a 7-year rolling average of values, and then that plays into a 3-year rolling average in the foundation formula, and that is affected by the 6 and 3-year revaluation cycles. And so it takes a while for some of this value to flow through. And so even though I think folks would say that farm values have peaked and they're starting to decline a little bit, it takes a while for that to flow through the formula. So there's still going to be rural districts that are going to see their valuations edging up, and potentially rural districts that will see their state share index increasing, and then rural districts that will see their potentially be on the guarantee, or potentially, if they've lost some students, enough students, qualify for a reduced guarantee base that might produce a negative number here. Lastly, on the agricultural valuation, I will say this, and I talked about this last year too. Many of the districts most heavily dependent on agricultural property, rural districts most heavily dependent on agricultural property, only levy 20 mills for their operating purposes. And they have a school district income tax. And school districts that are only at the 20 mil floor do not see the tax reduction factors from House Bill 920 kick in. So that means that as values rise, so do their tax revenues. And again, it was the case, I haven't studied it for this time, but I know it was the case 2 years ago, that many of the districts, these rural districts that did receive, under our proposals, would have received less aid. We're having what I would characterize as healthy growth in their local property tax revenue, because their 20 mils of school operating funds were not subject to House Bill 920. The fact of the matter is there's a lot of uproar about CAUV and what it's doing to property tax bills in rural areas. Let me tell you, the presence of the fact that so many rural districts have only 20 mills for school purposes, and therefore they're not subject to House Bill 920, this also is having an impact on tax bills for farmers, in addition to the CAUV issue. Not widely known, not widely understood. School districts are not going out and volunteering to tell the farmers that they are contributing to their increasing tax bills, but it's a fact.
This
Gotta figure out what the story is with that document so we can get it up here.
Yeah, Fred doesn't have to pick his dog up. She's gone back to the school.
Okay, then we've got to just get it up here, and we'll just have to distribute it to these guys, and we'll make any adjustments we need to make before we get it out. I mean, they need to see this other document.
Okay.
This Medicaid health insurance tax replacement. So on Monday you said it was approved by the administration?
The
federal administration?
So again, contextually, what's going on here? The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, CMS, although they really ought to have 2 M's in their name, they don't. They just call themselves CMS. They have, isn't it though? There are rules as states are permitted under certain circumstances to levy what are called provider assessments on classes of providers, but they have to be done under a certain set of rules in order to be eligible for those revenues to draw down federal match. The federal government doesn't, so in this case, how is that applicable to this Medicaid managed care sales tax? It was put in place it was enacted in 2009, started to generate revenue in 2010. eventually the Fed said, you know what, we don't think this really meets our tests of being a broadly applicable tax, because it was only to managed care. They eventually said, hey, you can't do this anymore and draw federal match now. They are not telling us that we couldn't levy this tax. Hey, we're free to do it if we want, but we can't use it to draw down the federal match. And if we don't draw down the federal match, it doesn't work for the state. I mean, these things are put in place to essentially create additional state share match for our purposes. And so we could keep levying this if we wanted, but it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. So they told us that this thing has to go away, the existing sales tax. Therefore, and it creates $550, $600 million for the state budget net to the bottom line, to the general revenue fund. We could not manage through that kind of a hole. So we looked at, considered alternatives. We came up with this health insuring corporation provider assessment, but we need the federal CMS approval that they will say, yes, that's a permitted tax that you can draw down the federal revenue against, or else it wouldn't have solved our problem. We would have been in the same place we were. So that when I say it got approval, federal CMS in December wrote us a letter that said, we approve your plan. And so you may use that to draw down federal match against it. And so it achieves our purpose of addressing the loss of state budget benefit from the managed care sales tax.
Do you have concern outside the general concern about the healthcare system getting totally revamped on that specifically as regards the change to the
Well, that's,
Trump
look,
administration?
the provider taxes, look, we have provider taxes on nursing homes, we have them on hospitals, we have them on ICF DDs as well. Now we have them on managed care plans. Most other states have some or all of these as well. So it's a widespread phenomenon. Clearly, if the whole healthcare structure is reworked, the ACA is reworked, or if Medicaid and how that plays is reworked, we will have to consider what kind of impacts are in play. You know, there's various schools of thought on what might, and not like what they might actually do, but if under certain scenarios, you know, provider taxes will be just fine. There are scenarios where provider taxes might be jeopardized, but again, it would create a serious challenge to all of the states that if they adopted some sort of a proposal where provider taxes levied could not contribute to state match for Medicaid. I mean, there would be a significant disruption, and so I would tend to believe that there would be a place for provider taxes in what they end up adopting. But again, we shall see.